Hello, my name is Ángel Andrés Rosario Rivera, and this is my presentation of the Count of Monte Cristo narration. I will be narrating the story from start to finish. So, without further ado, let's get narrating. First chapter, The Return of the Pharaoh. On the On the 24th of February 1918, the Pharaon sailed into the harbor of a French city in Marseilles. The crew of the ship was upset due to the ship's captain passing away on the ship. The owner of the ship, Monsieur Moreau, the one on the right, decided to make the person second of the captain, Edmond Dantes, the one on the left, the new captain of the ship. The ship's purser, Danglars, was upset for not becoming the ship's new captain, so Danglars told Moreau that Dante stopped at the same island that Napoleon was exiled to, due to that the, that the captain ordered Dantes to get a letter from somebody there that was going to some Nortia. Danglars said this trying to get Dantes kicked out of the crew. After leaving the port towards his father's home, Dantes found out that his father gave money that Dantes had left him due to that Kairos, the one you see on the screen, was owed money from Dantes. So he demanded money from the father, meaning that the father was left with so little money for 3 months, being very sick and having not eaten enough. After both Kairos and Dantes had a yelling fight, Dantes went towards his girlfriend's house, Mercedes. Once he arrived, he found that there was somebody in her home named Dan Fernand. He wanted to be Mercedes' new partner instead of Dantes. Once Fernand left the house, Danglars, Kairos, and Fernand met up, planning their revenge on Dantes. Chapter 2, Falsely Accused. This chapter starts on the day that Dantes and Mercedes are getting married. Before the ceremony can begin, two police officers barge into the betrothal feast to arrest Dantes on the charges of being a Napoleon spy. Due to this, Morel decided to appoint the next person in line under the captain of the Pharaon, being Danglars. The same day that Dante was arrested, Villefort, the one on the left, and the daughter of the Marquise of Saint Méran, Renee, were getting married. Once the wedding was over, Villefort went to the police station where Dantes was being held, which Moreau led Villefort to the police station after talking to him about the charges that were being against Dantes. Both talk and Villefort figured out that Dantes was innocent. But when Dantes said that there was a message that his father was going to that go that, that his father was going to send a letter from Napoleon to Nortia, Villefort confiscated the letter, keeping it a secret, leading to Dantes being arrested and being sent to the Chateau Ifth prison, the one you see on the screen, the prison from which no one has ever escaped. Chapter 3, A Man Without Hope. This chapter describes how Dante's life in prison was. Dantes, during the first days in prison, would shout out regularly that he was innocent, that he was mistaken for another prisoner, but he would be ignored. Villefort went to the king instead of Nortia with the letter, which which indicated that Napoleon was planning an escape from the Isle of Elba, in which the king went forward and landed Villefort a higher place than being a lawyer. During Dante's being in prison, as the letter said, Napoleon escaped from he was exiled. Napoleon retook the throne, being again exiled for the final time due to the Battle of Waterloo, and the king returning to the throne. Also, a couple of days of months of being in prison, Dante's father became ill and passed away in Mercedes' arms. Moro tried everything he could free Dantes from being in prison. Soon, Dantes didn't care if he lived to the day he would leave the prison or died a prisoner. Chapter 4. Escape. Here, this chapter shows us how Dantes managed to escape the Chateau Ift. One night, while lying against the wall in the cell, he heard something being hit against a stone wall. Dantes then picked up a stone and did the exact same thing, which stopped the sound. The next night, the banging continued, and Dantes started to use a tool for a couple of days until the tool he'd been using hit a wooden beam. Then another prisoner started to whisper him through the hole they dug. Dante said that the prisoner wasn't digging out to the other wall, but to the courtyard. Both decided to continue talking the next day, and Dante just felt a little bit of happiness for the first time in years. The next day, the prisoner climbed through the hole they dug and onto Dante's cell. Both prisoners hugged, finally being able to talk to another person after years of isolation. The other prisoner was Father Faria, and both bonded instantly. Both crawled back into Faria's cell, in which Dantes figured out that he was set up by Keteros, Fernand, and Danglars. Dantes went back into his cell with a storm of thoughts into his head. Within a year, Dantes earned and learned so many things from Faria. Then Faria talked about how he had a new plan to get out of prison. More than more than a year passed, and the plan was almost finished. But Faria fell sick, got attacked, and went back into the cell, in which Faria told Dantes to give him medicine. But the priest couldn't escape once he was given medicine due to his arm not being able to move, meaning that Dantes had to escape alone. So Dantes refused to leave the prison. The next day, Faria gave Dantes a piece of paper which showed where the treasure that Faria was looking for. It was hidden on an island named the Isle of Monte Cristo. A couple of days later, Faria had another attack, which killed him. When Dantes found him, Faria had wrapped his own body in a cloth sack before he passed away. Dantes then had a smart idea, which was to take Father Faria's body out of the sack and put him into Dante's bed, resembling that Dantes was still in his cell sleeping. And Dantes went to wrap himself in the sack, since the dead are only allowed to leave the prison, resembling Father Faria. Then the guards came for the sack and went outside to dispose of the sack in the sea. The guards then threw the sack in the ocean, which was Dante's sign that he was finally freed from the prison after many years of isolation. Chapter 5. The Treasure Cave. Dantes unwrapped himself from the sack using a knife that the priest had. Dantes had no idea where to go. Which way was the island of Monte Cristo? Dantes kept swimming through a storm until he reached an island, named the Isle of Tripolen. An hour later, after reaching the island, Dantes heard a loud crash, and then saw a boat crash onto the island. Dantes ran for the boats, but he didn't see anybody on the boats. It was deserted. The next day, Dante saw another ship in the distance, an Italian one. Dantes grabbed a fisherman's cap that was near the boat and swam for the Italian ship. The boat picked him up, saying that he was the only survivor of the wreckage of the ship that was in the Isle of Tripolen. He then figured out, after asking one of the crew members, that Dantes had wasted his life in prison for 14 years. Soon, though, Dantes figured out that the crew of the ship were smugglers. One day, the ship arrived at the Isle of Monte Cristo to meet another crew of smugglers. When the crew arrived at the island, Dantes went out for the island. When Dantes was returning, they saw him sleeping and falling on the rocks. They ran for Dantes, checking if he was okay, and wanted to help him, but Dantes said to leave him on the island to reduce pain, as well as to leave him some food, a gun, and an axe. Once the ships left, Dantes went up and began his search for the treasure. He found a cave in which, after he broke a wall, he found another cave. Soon after searching that cave, he found a wooden box. Once he opened the chest, he found gold coins, gold ingots, and jewels. Dantes was filled with an excitement about to find. It was true. The paper that Father Faria gave him did indeed led him towards a big treasure. Chapter 6: The Priest and the Innkeeper. While Dantes was in prison, Keteros became an owner of a small country inn. One day, while Keteros stood by his inn, he saw someone riding a horse getting closer to him. Once he got close enough, Keteros saw that he was a priest. Once the priest dismounted the horse, he asked Keteros if he could talk to him, as well as if he could bring him a bottle of wine. The priest, who was secretly Dantes in disguise, started to talk to Keteros, saying that if he knew Dantes, to which Keteros nodded yes, and Dantes revealed that the Dantes that was in prison had passed away. Keteros became sad at the fact that Dantes was dead, saying that he was a friend of Dantes. The priest added that he wanted to ask Fernand, Danglars, and Keteros, and his wife Mercedes, why was he in prison? Dantes added that before he passed away, he gave the priest a diamond, saying that if he wanted to share the diamond with Danglars, Fernand, Keteros, Mercedes, and Dantes' father, to which Keteros revealed that Dante's father had passed away, leaving Dantes extremely upset, but not showing the feeling due to him covering his face to Keteros. Keteros started to talk about how Dantes was in prison and that was the work of Danglars and Fernand. Dantes asked why didn't Keteros stop him, to which Keteros replied that at the time he was a coward and that he didn't help the duo, saying that since that night He regretted not helping, wishing that he could have done something. Then Dantes asked who was Monsieur Moreau, to which Caterpillar replied he was the owner of the Pharaon, who tried to get Dantes out of prison, which during the years he fell into severe debts. Caterpillar also added that Danglars and Fernand were living rich lives. Danglars, during Dante's prison, became Baron Danglars, and Fernand married Mercedes. Dantes gave the diamond to Caterose, saying that he was Dante's true friend, but Dantes knew that he had something to do with his imprisonment. Dantes then went towards Morrow to give an anonymous tip of 270 and 287,500 francs to Morrow, giving him enough money to be able to pay all of his debts. Dantes knew that Morrow was indeed his true own friend instead of Caterose. Chapter 7. An Eye for an Eye. It's the year 1831, and there's a festival in Rome. Two men from Paris arrive in Rome to attend the carnival. These men are Albert de Morcerf and Franz de Epinay. Albert being the one in the left, and Franz being the one in the right. They were not happy since the hotel keeper told them that there were no carriages left available due to the carnival. Once the hotel keeper came back after searching for anything valuable, he told him that the Count of Monte Cristo offered to share his carriage for the carnival. Both men didn't know who was the Count. The next day, both men visited the room where the Count was staying at. The Count of Monte Cristo, another one of Dante's identities, greeted them, and once they started making conversations, Dantes talked about how two men are trialed. One was part of Luigi Vampa's gang, but the other was pardoned. But he was pardoned. The other man was a murderer who was getting the guillotine punishment, and Dantes thought, or I should say, the Count thought that he was getting off too easy. Albert thought that it was reasonable punishment, but Dante said, "How would you feel if someone in your family was murdered?" They went to the executions. The gang member from Luigi Vampas was freed, and the murderer was indeed guillotined. Franz and the two men went to the carnival. During the carnival, they passed by a carriage full of women, in which Albert threw some flowers at them, in which one woman caught some of them. The next day, the woman dropped off a note from Albert, saying that she wanted to meet him. When Albert went to the meeting, he never returned. Soon, Franz received a note from Luigi Vampa's gang, demanding 4,000 piasters, or Albert would die. Franz and Dantes went to meet who was the person who delivered the note, which, surprisingly, was the man who was set free. He led them toward the gang wars, and when they arrived, Luigi ordered his men to lay down their weapons, due to Dantes being the reason how the bandit was freed. Sorry. He gave Albert back without the 4,000 piasters. When going back to the hotel, Albert thanked Dantes for rescuing him profusely. Dantes told them that he had plans to visit Paris. Once the two boys left, Dantes thought about everything that happened during the days that he was still with the boys. It was everything Dantes had hoped for since it was all a part of this plan. Later, that same day, Albert had a strange feeling about the Count of Monte Cristo. Chapter 8. Arrival in Paris. 3 months after the carnival, Albert invited a group of friends for breakfast in his home in Paris. Two of them were Maximilian Moreau, the one on the screen, and the Count of Monte Cristo. Once Dantes arrived, Albert introduced him as the man who saved his life from Luigi Vampa. During the breakfast, Dantes entertained the other guests with his adventures, but Dantes was only focused on Fernand, Albert's father. When everyone left, Dantes met Fernand and Mercedes, who recognized Dantes immediately. Mercedes and Fernand wanted Dantes to stay with them for the day as a thank you for saving Albert, but Dantes had other plans and he told them that he had to leave for business. Once arriving at his new home, Haiti was waiting for him. Dantes had rescued her from slavery in Turkey. Haiti wanted to only be with Dantes, even though their age difference was large. A couple of days later, Dantes told his servant to look for her runaway carriage that would pass by shortly. Once the carriage arrived, there was a woman and a kid inside. The woman was Heloise de Villefort, with her son, Edward de Villefort. Heloise was Gerald de Villefort, the lawyer, second wife, due to Villefort abandoning her first wife, Renee, and having a kid, which was Edward. Dantes led him inside for his home for comfort. Once Dantes introduced himself to them, and they did the same towards Dantes, Edward tried to take the medicine that Father Faria had, since he was a little sick. Dantes told them that the medicine was poisonous if it wasn't used correctly. Heloise asked Dantes if she could have some, which Dantes gave some of her. The fact that Heloise gave the fact that Dantes gave Heloise some of the medicine is extremely important later. Keep that in mind. Later, Villefort went to Dantes, thanking them for saving their lives. Later, Valentine de Villefort, René's daughter, met with her lover, Maximilien Moreau. Her parents want her to marry Franz d'Epinay, even though she wanted Maximilien. Heloise wanted Valentine to not marry anyone, since she would inherit the Villefort's money, which would mean that Edward would get simply nothing. Chapter 9: Mysterious Deaths. A couple of days later, Dantes was visited by Danglars, who was now a rich banker. Dantes, knowing that he was a banker, asked him if he can get an unlimited access to Danglars' money accounts, to which, hearing about all of the counts, agreed to. The next day, Dantes was visited by Benedetto, who was abandoned by his father. Benedetto became a criminal. Dantes wanted Benedetto for him to have Danglars' money, allowing him to become rich in an instant. Benedetto was Villefort's son, but he was abandoned, left for dead, for some reason unknown. Once Benedetto heard what the Count had said, he immediately agreed to it, under the condition of changing his name into another persona of Andrea Cavalcanti. Benedetto quickly learned from Dantes. One night, Benedetto was shocked by seeing a familiar face, Keteros, his old cellmate. Keteros gave him an ultimatum. Benedetto must give Keteros 200 francs a month, or Keteros will tell the Count of Monte Cristo his past. To keep Keteros' mouth shut, Benedetto agreed. Wanted to keep again. Keteros was quiet. My apologies. Soon Benedetto became famous in Paris, and once Danglars got wind of Benedetto's existence, he wanted her daughter Eugene to marry him. Meanwhile, in the Villefort's home, everything came to a crash when the Marquis had passed away in his sleep. His wife, the Marquise, had found him, and when a Villefort had found her, that person gave her something to drink. One, when an hour passed after drinking the drink, she also passed away. The doctor told Villefort that their deaths were from poison. 1 week later, friends came to the house to talk about wedding arrangements for him and Valentine. Nortia was also there, commanded his servant to give France some papers, revealing that Nortia had killed France's father in a duel. France was in shock, which led him to running out of the house, not wanting to marry Valentine again. Sorry. Once Maximilian learned about what happened, he was filled with joy, since it gave him a chance to marry Valentine. During the talking about the wedding arrangements, the servant crashed onto the floor. Valentine and Maximilian ran out of the room, calling for the doctor, but it was too late. When the doctor was trying to treat him, the servant had died. When closer inspection, the doctor figured out that indeed he was poisoned with the same drink that killed the Marquise. Some fingers were being pointed at Valentine, since she was the one who gave a drink to Nortia as well as the servants. Villefort went on the defense for his daughter, which led the doctor saying that he won't help the family if Villefort had the guts to defend a murderer. Chapter 10. Blinded by Greed. One day, Keteros was searching for Benedetto, since the money that he had been giving him wasn't enough anymore. He wanted more. Once he found Benedetto, Keteros demanded more money out of him, but Benedetto denied his demand. This made Keteros a little bit mad, so he asked Benedetto where the Count of Monte Cristo kept the stash of money, which Benedetto agreed. Once Keteros had left, knowing where the stash was, Benedetto wrote Dantes instantly, where it said that there was somebody that was going to break into his house and to be wary. Dantes waiting for the intruder, and once he heard footsteps on the balcony, about 11:15, Dantes got a good look at the intruder, which was none other than Keteros. Dantes quickly changed into the priest outfit, the same one Keteros had seen running towards his country inn. Then Dantes walked right into where Keteros was, who was trying to break into a locked drawer. Once Keteros saw the priest, and once Dantes asked him, "Why on earth are you trying to rob the count?" Keteros replied that he didn't have enough money, and robbing was a doing of poverty. Dantes replied that greed was the reason he robbed the count, not poverty, that the diamond seemingly wasn't enough, and Dantes also knew that Keteros was going to split the diamond to another person, to a not to a dealer, in which once the dealer gave Keteros money, Keteros killed the dealer, taking back the diamond. The count, Keteros pleaded for pity towards Dantes, to which Dantes responded that he will take pity if only Keteros said the truth, to which Keteros told everything about Benedetto, to which, surprise, Dantes knew everything about Benedetto. Dantes then went to say that he was writing a letter to Danglars, but midway through his sentence, Keteros knew that that would mean the end of the money. So, Keteros tried to stab Dantes, but failed, since Dantes was wearing a metal vest, saving him from being stabbed. Dantes then forced Keteros into writing a letter towards Danglars, which consisted in all about Benedetto and what he had been doing. After, Dantes let Keteros go, knowing that someone was going to hurt since he saw someone where Keteros climbed through. As you can see on the screen, I can I know you know where this is going. Once Keteros came down, Benedetto came out of the shadows, jumped towards Keteros, and stabbed him. Benedetto fled the scene, and Dantes ran downstairs toward Keteros, who told him who was the person who stabbed him, Benedetto, as well as Keteros wanted to add something to the letter, who was the person who stabbed him in case he didn't make it. Once he did, he asked Dantes, "Why did you chase after Benedetto?" To which Dantes responded, "How God has given Keteros health, work, friends, and a huge diamond." And the response that Keteros gave was to waste all of it. Then Dantes revealed who he was all along. To which Keteros, who previously didn't believe in God, finally believed that karma is real and that they can be very petty in his final moments before dying from the stab wound. Chapter 11: The Web of Revenge. Ooh, if you have any idea from this chapter, it gets juicy. Now that Caterwas was out of the way, slowly, all of his enemies were tangled in a web of revenge. Next after Caterwas was Fernand. A couple of days after the murder of Caterwas, there was an anonymous accusation against Fernand, accusing him of how he betrayed the Greek leader Ali Pasha. Fernand was summoned to the court where he pleaded that he tried to save Ali Pasha, until Haiti, a witness, testified against him, to which I didn't mention this before. Haiti was Greek, and her father was Ali Pasha, the one you see on the screen. This testifying led led toward led Fernand being guilty. Once Albert learned this, and after he pieced together that the count had had was the one who made the accusation against his father, wanted a duel against the count, which led Mercedes to beg Dantes to please to not kill her son. Dantes showed the letter that was used against him the day that got him into the chateau. Dantes promised Mercedes to not fight her son, since Dantes only wanted his enemies. At the place of the duel, Dantes explained why he did it, why he framed Ferdinand, and all of his reasons, all of the suffering, and that he wasn't fighting Albert, to which Albert agreed. Sorry. No, I'm very sorry about the coughing. When Dantes returned to his home, he was accused by Fernand, who was extremely furious of telling lies against him. Fernand decided to challenge him to another duel, but on the occasion that he must reveal who the Count of Monte Cristo really is. Dantes went into a room, changed into the sailor outfit, the same one he had been using during the Pharaoh, and, and came out. Fernand immediately figured out who the Count of Monte Cristo was, being Edmond Dantes, and Fernand ran from the room. When Fernand returned home, he saw Mercedes and Albert leaving him in a carriage. Mercedes had left Fernand, to which he loved dearly, as well as his son. Fernand's life was ruined. He was being framed for something that happened years ago. The past came to haunt him, and now the love of his life, Mercedes, and his only son, Albert, were leaving him. There was nothing he could do. He did not want to fight the legal battle. He didn't have the money. He didn't have the courage. So he figured out that the only way to go forward was to take his own life. Now that Keros and Fernand were taken care of, next in line was Danglars. Dantes went to Danglars' home for the wedding announcement of Eugene and Benedetto, until policemen came through the door claiming that Andrea Cavalcanti / Benedetto was the killer of Keros. Everyone in the house was in shock, and Dantes faked shock, and so leading to Benedetto fleeing the home, but he was still captured. Days later, Dantes took out 5 million francs from Danglars' accounts, and this panicked Danglars, and so much money was being taken out of his account. Now, and when a couple of days later, no, and later that same day, somebody else told Danglars that if he could have another 5 million francs, which left him. If he would have gone, and if we would have gone through the talking and given that person family friends, would leave Danglars bankrupt. So Danglars told that person to come back another day, in which that he would give him the 5 million francs. But instead, Danglars fled France. Now that Danglars' life was falling apart, it was time for the final one, Villefort. That Dantes went to Villefort's home, and then he told Valentine to fake being asleep, who found out who was the killer. After figuring out who was the killer, Dantes gave her a sleeping pill, in which after drinking it, landed Valentine in a deep sleep. Sorry. Everyone thought that she was dead, even the doctor. And when the doctor came to inspect the drink, it was figured out that the killer was none other than Heloise, using Dante's medicine as the poison to kill the servant, the Marquise, and trying to kill Valentine. On the day of Valentine's funeral, Maximilian wanted to end his own life, but Dante stopped him before he could do that, and told him to have hope, to keep having hope. Sorry, I'm sorry. That within a month, everything and both both Dantes and Maximilian will be very happy. While Villefort was dealing with Benedetto's trial, he found out that Heloise was the murderer. Villefort confronted Heloise, to which he told her that she will be going to prison, and if she wasn't already there, that it was better if she would just leave. When the trial of during the trial of Benedetto revealed the truth on how Villefort, his father, had almost killed him by leaving him abandoned, and having to turn into a life of crime. Everyone was staring at Villefort, even the judge, and Villefort quickly left the courtroom. There was a warrant now for Villefort. Villefort reached his house, ready to take Heloise and Edward to leave France and to hide their identities, when something that he would never recover occurred. When he was looking for Heloise and his son Edward, he found them both lying on the ground, dead. They both had taken the pill. They both had taken the poison that Dantes had given Heloise when they first met. Villefort went to the living room, panicked, where he saw Dantes, who revealed himself to Villefort. The man went insane and ran out of the house, calling for Edward. Villefort's mind had finally broken. All of Dante's enemies were taken care of, but Did he go too far on his revenge? Chapter 12. Final chapter of the story. The power of love. Now that all of his enemies were either dead or troubled, Dantes left Paris for Marseilles, taking Maximilian with him. Maximilian was still grieving due to Valentine's death, but he was still comforted by Dantes. When they reached Marseilles, Maximilian went to see his friends, while Dantes visited Mercedes, who was all alone since Albert decided to join the army. Of the comforting Mercedes, Dantes visited the chateau, in which at that point had closed now and was a tourist attraction. The guide showed him the book that Father Faria wrote, in which after reading, Dantes thought that his revenge was just. When Dantes met up with Maximilian, he told him to promise to visit him at the Isle of Monte Cristo after Dantes comes back from Italy, since that's where Danglars fled from Paris. Big mistake, because according to his plan, Danglars was now a prisoner by none other than Luigi Vampa. Dantes visited Danglars, who had completely run out of money due to him being imprisoned. Dantes revealed himself to Danglars, and Danglars fainted. When he woke up, he was lying beside a river. And when he found out that so much time had passed since he had white hair, Dantes left Italy on his way to meet Maximilian on the Isle of Monte Cristo. As promised, Maximilian was waiting for him and Dantes arrived. Dantes led him to where he found the treasure, and they had dinner, all the while Maximilian only wanted Valentine. After they ate dinner, Dantes gave the pill the same he gave to Valentine, and which got Maximilian into a sleep. When he fell asleep, Dantes called out for Valentine, who was also on the Isle of Monte Cristo. She escaped the funeral and to Dantes' plan, told her to go to the Isle of Monte Cristo. Dantes had reunited both Valentine and Maximilian together. Dantes asked Valentine if she loved Haiti, to which she responded that she does. Dantes then told Valentine to take care of her, since she will be alone. She will be alone in the world. But Haiti herself intervened, begging Dantes to not leave her alone, to which Dantes let Haiti stay with him, feeling as though God forgave Dantes for his revenge. Both said their goodbyes to Valentine as they left for the Isle of Monte Cristo. When Maximilian woke up, Valentine was right beside him, and they both felt the happiness they have ever felt before. Both only wanted each other, and through a tough time, Dantes gave them that. The next day, someone gave a letter to Maximilian and Valentine while they were walking on the seashore. The letter was from Dantes, in which contained that Norton was waiting for them. For the wedding arrangements. His house in Paris was now theirs. sorry. And that he hoped that they live happily, and as always, to wait and hope. That's the end, folks. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you have a great day.